we can't thank you enough. I know when I get up here, I'm going to let Shelley speak first. We're going to identify some of the leadership. But you need to know this, all right? When Ganesh approached me in Hawaii, we were so humbled because we've known what this organization has stand for a long time. For those of you that are new, you didn't know Bill Britt. And he was a world-class leader, one of the best of the best of the best. And this leadership you have on this stage emulates that man to the T, him and Peggy. And you've got the best of the best. I'm telling you right now, that DNA goes through each and every one of these leaders. And whether you believe this or not, this isn't stage talk. We're from a totally different AP. There's nothing that I can gain by sharing this with you. But I'm telling you, every one of these diamonds, they're people of integrity, they have unbelievable character, and they have great morals, and they know how to work. And you are beyond blessed to be in this organization. So go get them, Spartans! Woo! Well, I'm not going to take any of Shelley's time. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to let her start off. But we're not going to teach. You got the best teachers are. And we certainly are not here to create any kind of confusion. I'm a big believer. You're a unifier, you're a divider. And if you're not a unifier, then you probably are never going to build this business very big. Okay? So you got the best of the best of the best. We're here to share with you our story to give you hope. Now, the name of our company is RM Solutions. Now, people always ask me, what does RM stand for? I said, Robert and Michelle, but I thought your name was Bob and Shelley. It is, but if we called ourselves BS Solutions, nobody would take us serious, okay? So we had to change that up a while back and make sure that we had that straight, okay? This is my beautiful bride of 39 years, all right? I adore her. Everything I do in this business is for her. And one of my biggest dreams the day I saw this business is to make sure that I spoiled her rotten. And I've had people over the years say, boy, you sure spoiled your wife. I said, you're right. Why, can't you? Because my goal and my dream was to make sure that I was her hero in her life. And I wanted to make sure that I did everything I could to earn her respect, her trust, and her love for the rest of my life. So here's the love of my life, my beautiful bride, Shelley Coomer.
Wow. Can you hear me? Are you got it in you for one more speaker? We're going to be, seriously. I want to tell you, we truly are just Bob and Shelley. And we are here to give you hope. We're going to tell you some stories and things like that and just share some things that we've learned, or definitely I've learned. But your leadership here is so first class. And we can't say enough. And I think sometimes people come in this room, if you're new here, I know we are so excited for you to be here and listen to what you heard this weekend. And we captured a bunch of talks, first class, knowledge, work habit, heart, everything that it takes, right? To go build something great, to build something for you, to fulfill your dreams and the hopes and things you have in your heart. But it starts with a couple that made a decision and couples that made a decision to stay faithful and true to their dreams. And you know that you have that in your leadership, absolutely first class. So I first want to thank Neil and Twinkle. I don't know where they're at. I see them. They're here somewhere. Okay, there they are. They're taking care of us. Ganesh and Rekha, thank you for just being first class and having us here. And all the Diamond teams, we're so proud of you and so excited to share. And I love the theme. I love you are Spartans. And I love the theme, Unleashed. You know, one of the things I heard Neil say when he spoke Friday night, and this was good. In fact, I took notes on it. I want you to take a video of yourself when you walk out of here. To yourself. And I want you to embrace how you feel, where your heart's at, the emotion, the excitement, however you want to articulate it. And when life hits, because it's not a matter if, it's a matter of when. And I believe the more the life hits, it's just confirmation the bigger you'll be if you're willing to continue to walk through it. That's something we have definitely found out. But use that as a tool, because that's what you need to do. You know, I read this actually today, and this is so good. It said the root of resilience is the willingness to take responsibility for results. And as I talk about my story and I share with you, I think every one of you obviously has a story, and there's lives that you are going to touch that others won't be able to because of your story. But it's taking responsibility in what you've gone through, or maybe you're going through right now, and that you can get through it. And you have resources out there. We know with this system, this culture, being on this stage, which are our cousins, if you will, what it has done in our life to have people that we could go to. And a lot of times they couldn't do it for us. We had to do it ourselves, but it was the person who was encouraging us and loving us and holding our hand and saying, don't let go of the rope. And some of you may be there, and we get that. We have had so many different seasons in this business. This is our 38th year of business, which it's hard for me to believe because it's gone so fast, yet it is so full. And I'm taking notes on the storyline I want to share, but there's so much to share, so many memories we've created. And honey, it's been our mantra, hasn't it been, for 38 years, is creating memories with the people we love, our family, our children, now our grandchildren. We are fondly called Papa and Gigi, and now I've been nicknamed Gigi. That little Gigi's a little too much for, she's more mature now. She can call me Gigi. And I love that. And I love that I have the energy and the excitement to, I guess, be involved in something that our children can watch and our grandchildren can watch. Backstage, I was able to show a little video. And one of the things we did is we had, with Worldwide Group, they had us take some pictures of our grandchildren or children, a little video of them. And little two-year-old Tyler, when she was 2, my granddaughter, did a video, and it was so fun. All her mommy did was ask her questions. And she talked about, we help the people. It's about the dream. What's in perfect water? Mermaids. And what do you want to do when you get your dream? It's just be on a beach. And I go, she's figured it out, right? And that's because it's what's been in our family. It's who we are. It's in our DNA. And I just pray that you see that and continue to move toward that for yourself. So I'll give you a little bit of background. I actually, in a long story short, went to 15 different schools before high school. So I moved a lot, and I've lived in a lot of wonderful places. My dad opened major hotels. So this whole environment here is kind of my world. And I ended up getting in the hotel industry after I got out of college, which was just kind of a serendipity type thing. But so we moved a lot. And I know you've heard this from stage, and this has been spoken into you, but I never, ever considered myself a leader. Growing up, all the way through school, in college, even, I just wanted to fit in because I was always the newest person in the room, right? Well, you can call it whatever, conforming, doing whatever. And some of you may feel that that's where you're at or your background, and you say, could I really lead somebody, let alone myself right now? And again, I'm going to bring you back to the system. I'm going to bring you back to this amazing environment and association of people who aren't judging you. They give you grace. It isn't about perfection. You heard this. It's about progress. It's about moving forward and belief in letting you become the best version of yourself. And that is such a true statement. And so all those moves that we did ended up taking us to the San Francisco Bay Area, where my dad ended up working for one of the biggest hotel companies in the world, and he was headquartered out of San Francisco. Well, I ended up living in an area, and some of you may be familiar with this, but in the Bay Area, it's behind Stanford University. It's called Portola Valley in Woodside, and it's one of the most affluent zip codes in the United States, literally. And the kids I went to school with were so wealthy. And there's nothing negative about that. I'm just telling you from my perception where I was at, 11, 12, 13, 14, right in that arena, what I saw behind the scenes, okay? And I saw, parents that they were not healthy. I'm not saying all of them, but this is what I saw. I saw families that didn't have a unified husband and wife. My friends they could have anything they wanted, anything they desired financially, but the one thing they wanted that they desired was time with their parents and family. I saw all the materialistic things, and I could list things that, pick up a magazine and you look at the lifestyles of whoever and whoever. And that's the way they lived. And I saw things from a perspective as a young girl. So fast forward when we saw this business, and there's so many different opportunities and the desires to build this business. And there may be some material things that you have that motivate you to do something, but I truly believe what sustains you is the dream. It's pursuing excellence for yourself. It's not the things, right? It isn't the things. And when I came into this room, I was so negative when Bob brought this opportunity in front of us, because I just have, a lot of misinformation, a lot of preconceived notions about what this business was about. And so I bucked him big time. And when he finally came, because I was in love with my husband, I did not want to go through a situation where our marriage doesn't work, because I came from that. And I saw what that did in my life, how it made me as a young girl make a lot of poor decisions growing up, seeking affirmation from men in my life, seeking a father figure. And I went through a lot of things in my life. When I look at a crowd, I guarantee you somebody I can speak to, and sometimes I do I want to go there? Do I not want to go there? But when I say we're hope givers, we are. I mean, I was a wild child growing up. When my dad left, again, seeking things, I became a pleasure seeker, not happiness. I drank a lot. I did drugs. I did all that stuff. And I am not proud to tell you that. But I was one choice, one decision away of going off a cliff. And you have to take personal responsibility, right, for your life and where you're at. And I was lost. And a lot of it because it was the lack of what was not in my home. And bless my mom, she did the best what she could. There's a lot of single moms in this country today, right? And I think if you are a single mom, you couldn't be in a better room, in my opinion, in a safer room, in my opinion. You truly. So my mom did everything she could, and my dad was he'd come and see us occasionally. And there's a lot of reasons why people make decisions, and I'm not nobody's judge or whatever, but it's just where I was at and making those pleasure-seeking decisions. And so when I ended up getting in the hotel industry, of all things, I ended up moving to Montana. And because I was in that place of seeking that father figure, and I was married before. And when that marriage dissolved for a lot of reasons that take me an hour to share with you, but significant ones. And I had left that safety of my home and my friends and everything, and I was in Montana. And I thought, well, I can go back where I was, or I can continue to press on and move forward. And I don't believe there's any accidents in your life. I believe the saying, there's no whoops in God's vocabulary or where you're at, and you're there for a reason. And you have to look around and look for the direction and the doors that are going to be open. Well, at that time, I had a former employee of my dad's come to me and offer me a position in the hotel industry, of all things, what I grew up in. So I just kind of poured my life into it based on where I was at, and that's where I met this guy. And but I was not interested at all, because I had come out of a really ugly situation, and I was very stubborn. I called me, I am woman, watch me roar. And I always talk about the difference between a woman of strength and a strong woman. And I think there is a huge difference, in my opinion. And I was a strong woman. And through the grace of this business, the love of my husband, the mentorship of amazing mentors in my life and beautiful women, I have become a woman of strength. And there is a huge difference, a huge difference. And the one that has been rewarded by that influence and taking personal responsibility for the direction I was going has been me. And I don't mean that prideful. It's just changed how I filter and I look at things in my life, because now I'm taking personal responsibility. So when Bob and I met, we started our journey together, and he followed me to a beautiful place called Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Now, we live in Spokane, Washington. And when I say we're on the other side of the country, guys, we're on the other side of the country. We're Washington State. We're not where Seattle is, where it's rainy. We're on the other side. And there's the panhandle of Idaho, and there's a magnificent lake there called Coeur d'Alene. And there was a brand new resort being built, and I was hired to be one of the managers. to build this resort. And again, that was 40 years ago, because it was before we were married. Bob followed me over and we started our life. Broke, in love, we had our dreams, and then this business came into our life. And we were chasing our corporate careers, and we moved up the corporate ladder, and I really loved what I did in the hotel industry. I really enjoyed it. I loved meeting all the diversity of people. I loved I just loved it. It energized me. I think just because it was probably in my DNA with my family. And when I saw this business, the thing that really held me back more than anything, and I find where so many people just you stop or you go and then you stop, it's just the influences of people in your life and the status and caring what other people think. And I couldn't shake that. I mean, had the status, we had climbed up the corporate ladder. I moved to another hotel company and I was the director of sales of all these hotels. We were made significant income, and I wore that as a badge of honor, that status of that. And Bob ended up through a transition to different positions, ended up working for a huge telecommunication company. And he can share with you, but he had the exposure to actually Brad and Julie Duncan's parents, Dave and Darlene Duncan, who sponsored us in the business. And Bob had met David because they were from Montana in the hotel industry and had exposure to the business, actually got in the business, and then some things went kind of funky and he pulled away, but it hadn't left his heart. And there's a lot of people out there that you may run into that have those same experiences. And that's why I think it is, you just never know who you're going to meet when you stick your hand out and say hello to somebody, right? And so the story came where he ended up making a connection. He came home and told me, we're getting involved in the Amway business. I said, you're getting involved in the Amway business, not this girl. But I loved him and I did not want to be with him. And it was such a struggle. So let me tell you, when I'm saying I was still in that strong woman mode, we'd go and I would challenge him. I'd try to derail him. I'd argue with him. I don't want to go. Why are we going to that meeting? And he says, you know what? I didn't ask your permission to get an MCI, and I'm not going to ask your permission to build this business. And he just kept going. Well, I would go with him and I'd come to a meeting, and I was the kind that would come in here and I'd have this smile on my face and I was excited and I wasn't afraid to go talk to anybody and shake your hand. It was what I did in my industry, the hotel world, always going out dealing with all different kind of clients from every background. But I get in the car and I just would flip a switch and, I'd go at him about the business and I just pick things apart. I thought you were all weird. I thought you were all too fired up. I thought it was fake. I thought it was phony, all these things, but I kept coming back. And that didn't change. It was genuine. You know why? Because I hadn't been in a room of people who were really genuinely excited about their dreams. I hadn't been in a room with people who weren't coveting each other's things and the competition and the backstabbing and things that I experienced in the world we were in the corporate world, and who was better than who and who had the nicer car, lived in the better house, and all the things, how people would filter their discernment of how they would interact with you. It was different. But the thing that got me more than anything were the marriages. And you saw that with your leadership. You guys, there's nothing greater, in my opinion, than running with somebody when you have the same dreams, the same goals. It will take you places you never thought you could go, give you emotions you never thought you could have. And I am so thankful what this business has done in our life. So thankful. And, some of you may be in here. One of you may be excited and the other is not. I get that because that's where we were at. And ladies, if I can just speak to you from my heart, you bet. Just speak to you from my heart. When you have that struggle and you have your man that has a dream and you I was an anchor, and I was so thankful he didn't let go of the dream. And the very thing that he just get feisty and he gets strong, I get so mad at him, but He needed to do it to set that example in leadership, not in a submissive, suppressing me, not in that way, but just to show me where we were going and what we needed to do. And I know in some situations in this room, it could be the opposite. Some of you ladies may be more excited and you're here, maybe you're here in your relationship, your marriage, whatever it is that you're here, and maybe the gentlemen in the room just don't quite see it yet. Maybe, in this world, you see so many men go out there and they pursue their dreams and get squashed down, or they've never had a father figure in their life that's learned to build them up and tell them you can do it. And Bob didn't have that, bless his dad's heart, but a lot of our parents did the best with what they knew at the time. I don't judge our parents for that, but you walked into a room, and Bob uses the example, and I don't mean it from the term like it is, but it's like rich dad, poor dad. I'm talking about rich in attitude, rich in mindset, rich in values, and we had those two different directions we could go. And again, from my side of the family, you'd look and you would think it was rich. But we were poor in so many of the other things. And so in this, we found something. And when we finally came to a major function for me, and I talked to Ganesh and I said, do you guys have Free Enterprise Day? Which some of you may know about it. It's where we have a conference that we're celebrating the very thing that this country was founded on, free enterprise, right? And there's great acknowledgement. It's a great, great function. And in our organization and worldwide, we have FED. So we went, and at that time, our upline mentors, David and Darlene, were emeralds with 5 legs over. And Brad and Julie were crossing stage in 1989 as new diamonds, and Julie is pregnant with their first daughter, Brooke. And the conference was in Spokane, Washington. And so we went to the conference. I went, and at that time, we just had a few people with us because Bob and I were still bantering. I always say we're in the boat. We both had oars, but we still were beating each other over the head. The boat was not moving forward, or one oar was in, and we were going in circles. Some of you have heard that before, but that was us. But we went there, and it was bigger than life to me. And I remember being in that room going, where have all of you been my whole life? The way I felt in the room, the unity in the room, the excitement, the families, the husband and wife celebration, the fun, the laughter. It was just so genuine to me. It was authentic. And I know you felt it here today. You can't lose that feeling. You can't lose it, right? We have to go out and unleash it, if you will, but you can't lose it. So at that function, I always say there's a defining moment when you make the decision. You don't make it twice, you make it once. And every leader that's sitting here, is cross stage or is backstage, made the decision, and they didn't waver from the decision. Now, there could have been ups and downs and valleys and whatever, but you make the decision. When we were at FED, and Brad and Julie were crossing stage, and Bob goes, I'm going to rush the stage. And I said, I stayed up in my seats. We had just a few people with us. And I rushed the stage, and as he was being introduced, some of you may know who Ron Prier is, or Dave Severin. Greg Duncan was on stage, and because it was so unique that the Duncan family, you had Greg, Brad, and David was an emerald, they brought David on stage, and actually Bill was there, Bill Britt was there, and had David come on stage and Darlene to honor their son because, it was a big deal. Diamond breaking diamond, and their dad was an emerald. So when he came on stage, Greg Duncan, when they were doing the introductions, Bob was right here on the stage, a huge stage. He looks down at Bob, and he just stares at him. He holds up 6 fingers. And he looks back at his dad, looks back at Bob, and just stares and holds 6 fingers. And Bob knew exactly what it meant. You need to be the 6th leg. And when I tell the story, I still get chills because every one of you in this room are part of a team. And you may not think you're significant. You have no idea how significant you are, right? Everyone matters and everything counts. Everyone matters and everything counts. And so when he walked up and he told me that, in my mind, I looked at him and I go, oh my word, he's going to start building the business now. It was like, I just knew it. There was something in him. And we went back home and we had a heart to heart. And he said, I need you on my team 100%. I need you to run with me, whatever that looked like. And at that time, we had our corporate careers that are incredibly demanding. We had no time. He called David up. He said, David, we are committed. We will do it everything it takes. We are claiming it, speaking it. We will be your sixth leg. And David, in a very kind, loving way, he says, well, you've told me that before, Bob. What's going to change? What your mentor's going to do? He's going to raise up and challenge. He says, Shelley is on my team, and we are going to lose sleep. We are going to do whatever it takes. So you guys, when we say it's work, it's effort, you get gritty with it, we got gritty with it. And we chose this. None of you have to do this, but we chose it. We didn't have children at the time. So I understand through mentorship and the decisions you make that are right for you, you need to make the decision what the time you put and what that looks like. For Bob and I, we went all in. And when I say we worked, we worked. As soon as we got out of our jobs, we worked. And we had meet and greet after meet and greet after meet and greet after meet and greet, a plan, meeting after meeting after. Every weekend we had training sessions. We just went to work. And we were 900 PV in December, that fall. We went 2,500 in February, 2,500 in January, 4,000 in February. And we went 8,700 PV in March, and Dave and Darlene Duncan went into diamond qualification. But I'm going to tell you, and I say this, please hear my heart. It had nothing to do with Bob and I. We take responsibility for the decision, but this is the best part. Our team was around us. We were a hot mess. We fought in front of all the time. We didn't do anything right. We worked, but Brad said, have a dream, have a great attitude and work. Our dreams were marginal. I mean, we wanted to be together and kind of get our more time together. Our attitudes were okay when we had to be. Behind closed doors, they weren't necessarily, but we knew how to work. It's your pixie dust, guys. Go to work, and you can figure it out, and we did. And what happened is our whole team watched us. They go, well, if these two guys can do it, we can do it. And 3 months later, 3 singles went into qualification. Singles. And it was a healthy competition. They called themselves the Three Amigos. And we just ran. And we ran. And Bob is about, and I know this organization, your leaders, acknowledge building strong businesses, right? Building strong business. And we always believe the more people you help, the more blessings, because that's how this business works. You don't make a dime until others be successful and build this business. And that's what we did. We just kept sowing into people, making mistakes, getting back with our mentors, taking direction. And what I love about Bob, and again, I'm not just telling you this, gentleman in the room, when I watch Bob humble himself so many times and just go and just humble himself to a mentor and would just say, help me. What am I doing wrong? Where are my blind spots? And he could have defended himself. He could have said there's times an upline mentor maybe wasn't around and seen that he'd made those changes. But he just said, you know what, I asked him, I'm going to sit and I'm going to listen to what they're going to tell me, and I'm going to make the corrections where I need to go. And I cannot tell you how much respect he gained from me when I watched him do that, because he humbled himself to become a better version for myself and for our future family. And it's such an honorable thing to do. It keeps you in a place of humility and gratefulness, and it is a wonderful thing to do. So we ran hard. We wanted to do it right. And do it and stayed. Delayed gratification, we have always believed that. Always meant that is an important example, not putting yourself or extending yourself. So one full year I worked, and I'll never forget when I walked into my boss at the hotel, and I told her, I said, I came in and I was giving my resignation, and I said, I'm going to give you a month because of the position I had. They'd had to hire people, and I was going to help them do it. And then she looked at me, and she knew that Bob, we had a business, and I never mixed the two. I gave it 100% plus at my job, but she knew we had that entrepreneurial spirit. And I remember her looking at me at her desk, and she kind of got choked up, and she goes, Shelley, when did you build your business to get to the place that you could make this choice? And I said, while you were sleeping. That is fact. And your price will be whatever your price is. We all pay a different price. But the thing I want you to ask yourselves, is it worth it? I can just tell you from us, yes, it's worth it. The memories we've created and the things that we've done have been amazing. But I want to read something to you. We had our summer conference 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to read these things to you as I finish out. And it's the things that I've learned in 38 years, if you let me. I've learned to look in the mirror and like who I see. Ladies, I've learned to look in the mirror and like who I see, no matter the age and what's looking back. I've learned I'm married to an amazing man who is different than me, learned to honor our differences, to celebrate our likenesses, our values and our dreams, and that's what's kept us together for 39 years. I've learned to live in the moment and enjoy my children. My grandbabies appreciate who they are, their special gifts, and they don't have to be like me. I've learned that I don't worry, keep the faith, and this too shall pass. I've learned people come and go. No greater statement than some people come in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. I've learned when you are offended by someone, take the high road. That's why they call it the high road. I've learned what loyalty is, that I don't want people in my life who can't defend me when I'm not in the room. I've learned that gossip dies when it hits a wise person's ears. I've learned laughter is so good for the soul. I've learned lessons behind you, opportunities in front of you. I've learned to show me a decision and I'll show you a direction. And boy, do we resonate with that. I've learned our words will create our worlds. I've learned we are so quick to accept criticism for people we wouldn't accept advice from. I've learned adversity grows your capacity, and the battles that we have are not necessarily outside of us, but they're inside of us. I've learned legacy is not what you accomplish, but it's what others accomplish because of you. I've learned bold prayers honor God, and God honors bold prayers because it reveals our faith. And lastly, when you understand God is never late, you will wait differently. And I want to tell you, I am married to a rock star. I love you, Bob Coomer. You're an amazing human being. And we're here not because necessarily this girl went around and, acknowledged people at Diamond Club. Not that I didn't do it, but that's just who Bob is. He's the last man standing at every meeting we go to. His heart is over the bar. He's had a great example with Brad, but it has been his heart since the day I've known him. He's just a huge dreamer. He loves people. He loves his family. He is the hardest working human being I know. And it's all about everybody else. It's about serving. Bob doesn't have a statusy bone in his body. It is all about serving. And I just want to thank you for making a life of dreams coming true for me, because it's been an amazing ride. And thank you for going and being who you are. So we got the opportunity to be all around all of you and your leaders, because you have some of the greatest leaders. You really, truly do. And we are taking home so much from this week. And so God bless you. We love you. And here's Bobby.
Well, whenever I mention leadership, I always leave somebody's name out, so I always hesitate to do so. But I've got to mention these three names for sure, because Ganesh and Rekha, we wouldn't be here if they hadn't invited us. And we were beyond flattered to think that here's a double diamond that would invite us to come in to speak at their organization, and not knowing what we'd say from stage, it could mess you guys up, okay? So they walked in total faith. And then Sean Luke, I don't think he's gotten enough credit here this weekend. Taking care of all the details, sending me itineraries, letting me know what's going on, walking me through what to expect and everything else. And then, of course, Neil and his precious wife, Twinkle. You know, on the outside, I'm a big, tough Montana outdoorsman, hunting, fishing kind of guy, and carry 100 pounds of a quarter of elk out of my back every year. And when I go hunting in the mountains, but you get me on stage, and my wife starts edifying me, and I think I'm going through male menopause. All right, I start crying like a 2-year-old. All right, and so forgive me if I start crying, but I'm so overwhelmed by the blessings that have come in our life because I came from a very low income, poverty, almost poverty level family. And to say I'm grateful is an understatement. Understatement, okay? We love this business. And I used to hear, when I got in, I heard people from stage say, we love you. And I'm going, you don't even know me, you phony. What are you talking about, right? But we love you because of what you stand for. You're here when other people are watching TV, God only knows what, maybe watching Atlanta get beat or whatever, I don't know. Just kidding, just kidding. One of these days, you guys are going to have a team. It's all right, okay? So I need to let you know that I was born just up the hill from here in Trenton, New Jersey. It's not hell, but you can see it from there, and the view's pretty good, okay? So if you're from Jersey, we'll lay hands on you later and pray for you, okay? Mom was in the Navy when she met my dad. My dad was a 22-year Air Force veteran who, his mom falsified his papers when he was 16. He fought in the Korean War. And he went on to fight 2 tours in Vietnam and survived. And he passed away this last Christmas. I miss him big time. But I got all of his honorary medals from when he fought in those wars, all his merit medals. He retired as an E9, which is the top dog in the enlisted man's world. Got his flag above my desk, 21 gun salute. And even though my dad was a tough OGI, and thank you, and he was an ornery sucker, he taught me how to work. So one thing my dad instilled in me is he taught me how to work. I can outwork anybody half my age, and I'm not being arrogant when I say that. I have young men in my business come over, want to help me around our ranch, and I'm going, okay, go ahead. And they're worn out in 2 hours. They're done. Like, I don't know how you do it, right? I give my dad credit for that. But we lived in 13 different countries growing up. So when Shelley and I got together, she talked about how many grade schools she attended. Between the two of us, we had attended 32 different grade schools growing up. People say, how'd you do it? We can't imagine taking our kids out of school when they're juniors and seniors. I said, I can't imagine living in one school for the rest of my life. I think it made me the person I am. I had to be an extrovert or I'd have no friends because every time I moved, I have to meet new people and make new friends, right? And I was always the new kid on the block for sure. But the experiences that I had in my life forever changed me. I remember we were stationed in Germany for 3.5 years, and I remember going to Checkpoint Charlie. And we were sitting there at the Berlin Wall. They had, at that time, they had taken bricks and mortar and put all the windows shut, sealed them shut. And the East Germans, the communist side, wouldn't let anybody come across. And I remember watching this car come up to the gate at Checkpoint Charlie. I was a very young man. They stopped him, suspected something. They made him open the hood of the car. The driver had taken out the radiator between the engine block and grill and was hiding in East German trying to get him across to the free side. And they pulled out a 9mm and shot him in the head from me to you. Killed him. And I watched him. I went to the concentration camp, Dachau. They had literally rubbed themselves. People had taken their fingers and rubbed it down to the bone trying to get oxygen when they were being gassed in the showers. And it made me appreciate what we had in this country and the freedoms that we have. We take it for granted sometimes, just how great this country is. Do we have our share of problems? Absolutely. No questions asked. But every time I see that flag go up, I stand in total honor and respect of that American flag and all those Americans that fit for it. Right? We lived in all the Benelux countries, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Spain. I've been all over. We lived in Labrador for 3 years. That's right below Greenland, where the average snowfall was 450 inches a year. The average temperature in the wintertime was 35 below zero. 21 miles of road. If you didn't hunt and fish, there was not a whole lot to do, okay? So I was blessed to be able to travel and experience things that most people never get to experience. I ran for Adidas for 7 years. I was an Olympic hopeful in 1984 at the Olympic Games in LA. And I had the good blessing as I was running for Adidas to be able to run in Italy for 7 years of my life. And got to compete for 3 months at a time every summer in Italy. And I got to meet some of the neatest people in the world, but it also allowed me to see things again that most people in their lifetime will never be able to see. I went to Creighton University because my dad said, you're going to make something of yourself. Your old man never went to college. You're going to make something of yourself. I went to Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska, with every intention of being a dentist. I don't know why, because I look back today and I would never want to clean the plaque off of all of your teeth, okay? But I had a biology and a chemistry degree. My dental admission scores weren't good enough to get in, so I did. And I thought, now what am I going to do with 2 degrees? Pretty much worthless unless I taught. So I went back to the University of Montana, where my parents were living at that time, and I picked up an accounting degree. And again, I worked in accounting for 6 months, and I thought, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? It's got to be the most boring profession on the planet. I've never seen anything like this. And again, if you're an accountant, don't take offense to that. Just get over it and change your career. I then got involved in the hospitality business. I did it out of necessity because I needed a job. And that's where I met Shelley. There were 330 women in the industry in the state of Montana in directors of sales positions and 1 male. Moi, okay? It was a target-rich environment, gentlemen, okay? It was phenomenal. And the few girls I ever dated in my life were always blondes and blue eyes and 5'9", 5'10", and they were always very petite, and I met Schmurf, okay? And our team, we call her Shay-Lo. That's J-Lo, but Shelley. Oh, so Shay-Lo, all right? And I fell madly in love with her. I looked at her and I went, I'm gonna marry this girl. And she wanted nothing to do with me. And I'm a good country swing guy because I grew up in Montana, kind of half cowboy. And I tried to get her to swing and she wouldn't give me the time of day. And long story short, I spent a lot of money trying to pursue her. She wanted nothing to do with me. So I finally gave up because I realized there was plenty of fish in the sea. And then one day, and I won't bore you with the story, but it would be shocking to you if I did, how we finally got together. But what happened was I was living in Helena, Montana, the capital city at the time. Shelley was living in Missoula. She was my competitor. A lady by the name of Shelley lived in Spokane who was the marketing director for a mall in Spokane. She happened to be in Missoula, Montana, sent a Christmas letter to me because she had a crush on me, said, let's get together for some Christmas cheers. Love, Shelley. It's the only reason I ever asked her out again. When I asked her out and she agreed to do it, that's what led to our marriage. And years later, or months later, when we got married, we were exchanging our love notes between the two of us, combining all of our paperwork. She read this card and she said, Bobby, get in here. And I came in, she started laughing. I go, what's so funny? She goes, this is not from me. And I felt like it'd been used and abused because that's the only reason I had ever asked her out again, okay? God has a plan for sure. A short time thereafter, Shelley got, as she mentioned, involved in the Amway business. And then I got immediately on board with a company called MCI Telecommunications. At the time, I started off low, down in the totem poles in AE. I was involved for a while in raising capital. That's when Bill McGowan, the chairman of the board, the founder of MCI, we were raising junk bond capital, trying to compete with AT&T and Ma Bell to take on the Bell Operating Company. Climbed the ladder very quickly, not because I knew what I was doing, but because of some of the skills I started learning in this business. I knew nothing about telecom. I had people work for me that worked for AT&T for 35 years. They could spin circles about what I knew. But I was the branch manager, responsible for a $22 million branch, 89 employees in a 3-state region. And I was way over my head, to be quite frank with you. So we started moving along a little bit in the business. We poked at it because we were really busy in our careers. I worked no less than 90 to 110 hours a week. That's not an exaggeration for 7 years of my life. I never worked less than 90 hours. Most of the time I worked 110. So it was hard for me to build a business when I was working that hard, so I had to rely heavily on her to get names, but it was my job to follow through. And she was really good at getting names, so we went to work. And about that time, all hell broke loose in my life. I came home one day and Shelley said, your dad's called. And I said, what's going on? She goes, why don't you go ahead and get settled in, get out of your suit, relax, I'll make you some dinner, we'll talk. I said, no, you don't understand. My dad never calls. I'm just a tough old guy. I said, there had to be a reason he called. Why did he call? She goes, honey, just get comfortable. I said, Shelley, why did my dad call? Well, I hate to tell you this, but your dad's got terminal cancer. He's been given a year to live. Okay. So I started going to the bedroom and she goes, but that's not all. I said, what's going on? She goes, your mom was diagnosed within a week, your dad with terminal cancer, and she's got a year to live. Okay. I go to work next day, heavy on the heart. Guy comes into my office, opens the main door and said, are you Bob Coomer? I said, I am. He said, you've been served. And he walks out the door. I was served with a lawsuit. I had 3 employees suing me for sexual harassment. 21 charges were being levied against me. They sued me for $21 million. They were obviously after MCI's deep pockets. I knew it was all a lie. I would never do anything like that. I'm a God-fearing man. I've been in love with my wife ever since the day I met her. But now every day it shows up in the paper. I went through 9 months of depositions. The attorney who was representing the 3 employees that were accusing me of these allegations was the only sole survivor of the plane that hit a bridge in Washington, D.C., hit the Potomac River, and survived. He was the only one. In his office, he had no doors. He had black beads hanging down, and he gave himself a dozen black roses every year on the anniversary. And I thought, I'm in trouble. This guy's a whack job. I had 5 attorneys working for me, 1 personally, 4 corporately, 1 that worked for me with MCI personally, 1 my private attorney that worked with me, 3 attorneys that came out of division headquarters in Denver. My attorney advised me we could only tell MCI what we needed to do to win. We couldn't tell them too much because if any charges were levied against me and we lost, they would sue me, countersue me for damages, and I'd have to pay damages. So here I am, going home on weekends to help my mom and dad out, trying to figure out what we're going to do. I had a little brother living at home that was 12 years old. He would call me up. We didn't have cell phones back then. They were just coming out. He'd call me up crying, collect, and said, Bobby, what am I going to do when mom and daddy die? Who am I going to live with? Am I going to be put in an orphanage? I said, buddy, you just love mom and dad. I said, something happens to mom and dad, you're going to live with us. Don't you worry about it. You just help mom and dad. He'd call me crying all the time. All of a sudden, we're about 6 months from going to jury selection, and I'm just overwhelmed. I mean, I'm beside myself. I mean, both parents are dying of cancer. I'm getting sued. It's in the paper every day. I'm wondering if my group believes me. I'm wondering if she believes me. And I'm trying to hold the organization together. She kept saying, we'll get through this. I believe you. I love you. Everything's going to be just fine. But deep down in my mind, I wonder if she's really telling me the truth. So we decided that we needed a little break. We're going to go away for the weekend, just before Christmas. We took 6 of our downline with us, and we're going to visit a downline in Montana who had a beautiful home on Ashley Lake. It's paradise. You've got the beautiful Bob Marshall Wilderness in the background, this lake that's 21 miles off the road, 7 miles long, mile wide, stunning, gorgeous. So we jump in the Explorer, head over that way, starts snowing heavy on the way there, pretty high in the mountains. We get there, about 3.5 feet of snow on the ground, the lake's frozen, a couple days before Christmas. And they all knew what was going on in my life, and they all gave me a big hug and said a prayer and said, we'll get through this. We believe in you, we'll get through it. I said, thanks, guys, I need this. That afternoon, we got settled in this beautiful cabin. It was a Forest Service cabin that this couple had inherited. Their name was John and Connie. They were very poor, but they inherited this cabin from their parents. It was basically all they had. 20-foot high ceilings, very weathered floors from all the activity from the Forest Service and the government. But we were there for one reason only. It wasn't about Bob and Shelley. It was about their little girl, Cammie, who was 5 years old, little cute blonde, blue eyes, precious little thing. And because her mom and dad didn't have a lot of money, we all agreed as adults that we would come there and give Cammie a Christmas she would never forget. It was going to be a traditional Christmas, no commercial. No commercialization whatsoever, no bulbs, no lights, no nothing. If anything, we'd cut down the tree and make the decorations. So as we got settled in, we set out, husky in tow, 3 feet of snow, jumping like a rabbit, leading the way. Little Cammie's on my shoulders. We walked in about a half a mile into the woods. She found the perfect 20-foot Christmas tree, took the buck saw out, sawed the tree down, fell over. 4 of the guys took it back, Tammy back on my shoulders. We went back. We let it dry in the house. We made a big old X out of 2x6s, nailed it to the bottom of the tree, set the tree up. And we proceeded to make the decorations for the tree. All the adults took a needle and thread. We'd string 1 red cranberry, then a kernel of popcorn, 1 red cranberry and a kernel of popcorn. And we made chain after chain after chain of cranberry and popcorn. Little Cammie was cutting construction paper and stapling them together, making that green and that red construction paper chain. And that's all that was on the tree except for 1 star on top. We sat there that night admiring it. Day before Christmas Eve, we all got to bed fairly early because we'd made the trek over there. Next morning we got up, had some breakfast, and we immediately knew what we had to do. So 4 of the guys got up, we took a 4x8 piece of plywood, we went on the lake. We put it at an angle and used it as a snow plow. We started taking all the snow off the lake in about a 100-foot radius. Once we got all the snow off that part of the lake, I took an axe out, chopped a hole, about 4 feet of ice, chopped a hole in the ice, ran a big extension cord from the cabin out there, put a wash machine pump in the hole, pumped the water back up out of the lake on the ice, because when the lake freezes, it freezes rough. And we were going to make the smoothest ice skating rink you have ever seen. Put a big old pile of wood, 6 feet high, 6 feet wide on top. Put a bunch of benches out. This couple, John and Connie, very poor, went to a lot of garage sales. And over a period of years, they bought all kinds of ice skates, from little kids' ice skates to size 13 Triple E ice skates. And they had boxes of used skates. We came in that night. We admired the Christmas tree. We put Cammie to bed because we knew that Santa was coming not too long thereafter. She put out her cookies for Santa. She put out her carrots for reindeer and the cube of sugar for the reindeer, especially Rudolph. She was pretty fond of Rudolph. When you have no brains, you have no pain. So I climbed up on this roof about 30 feet off the ground with 3 feet of snow on it. I took a steelhead fishing rod, big long fishing rod, let line out about 15 feet, tied a flashlight to it, put red cellophane paper over the top, and I had jingle bells. And at midnight on cue, I lowered that down in front of Cammie's window, moved it up and down, moved it back and forth, rang the bells, and she was convinced that Rudolph just took off. So she came zipping down the stairs. Her little hair is all messed up like little kids' hair is. Little cute one-piece pajamas, nothing cuter than a little girl in little one-piece pajamas. She came ripping downstairs. The cookies were gone. The sugar cubes were gone. Half the carrots were gone. She came up and woke up every one of the adults. And we came down and proceeded to open presents that we all agreed we'd only give to Cammie. No exchange of gifts between the adults, because this was Cammie's Christmas that she would never forget. And every time Cammie would open a present, it was probably living hell for her. We all had to talk about what we were thankful for. What we were thankful for. And this went on for about 2.5 hours. Now it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. We're all done with presents. We're all done talking, exchanging ideas, laughing, crying. And we all said, it's time. We went outside and we turned on old Karen Carper Christmas tunes, belted it out on this lake, put the ice skates on, lit the pile of wood on fire. For you city slickers, it won't burn through. That's another story in itself, okay? But this 6-foot-high bonfire, we had that music going on, and on cue, it started to snow. And we got those ice skates on. We started ice skating, listened to that little girl laugh and giggle, because it was the greatest Christmas she's ever had. And about 3 in the morning, we went back in the house. We could already smell some of the pies that Connie had made from the night before on a wood stove where you had to put the wood in it to cook the pies. And everything in the cabin was heated with wood. We just no sooner got to bed, and about 3 hours later, we heard a knock, knock, knock on the door. One of my downline came up and said, hey guys, you need to get up. Kyle's here. I go, it's 6 in the morning. We went to bed 3 hours ago. Who's Kyle? He said, you just need to take these coveralls, put them on. Kyle's waiting for you. You need to come now. So Shelly put on her coveralls. I put on my coveralls, our big old mittens, our big old hats. We went outside, and here was the most beautiful 2-person handmade sleigh you have ever seen in your life. And Kyle was the horse. And my downline said, we're going to go for a sleigh ride on Christmas Day, just you and Shelly and Kyle. He put a big army blanket over the top of us. Kyle had a 3-inch piece of leather around his neck with jingle bells. And immediately, as soon as we got ready to go, just before he said, yeah, it started snowing about 2-inch flakes. There was no wind, and it came down calm as calm can be, deadened all the sound on the lake. And for the next 7 miles, as she was drinking her coffee and I was drinking my hot chocolate, all we heard was ching, 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 ching. Right then and there, I will tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, I made a decision to get busy in this business. Because I said to myself, self, I will never let another human being ever control me ever again for the rest of my life. Ever. Never, ever, ever. I will tell you, never be so poor that all you have is money. Never be so poor that all you ever have is money. That sparked a dream in me, big time. We did 15, 18 meet and greets a week, 5 plans a week, no less than 90 meetings a month, follow-ups on weekends, nuts and bolts on weekends, anything and everything we could do. And as Shelley said, we went in platinum qualification from 900 PV to 8,700 PV. We got busy. Then we got stuck after we went Emerald. A year later, we were in Emerald, had a big business, made a very good chunk of dough. We had massive parameters, cut over 25 bonus checks at that point. We were doing very, very well financially, but our business got stuck. And I sat down with Brad and I said, tell me the truth. What do I need to hear? He said, you can't handle the truth. And I remember David was my upline, Brad was his son. That was like grandpa to me in this business, right? So he didn't know what David knew, and I don't know what David had shared with him, but there were some things, some blind spots that I had to change, being a corporate guy. And Brad listed off about 25 things, most of which I'd already corrected, but the half a dozen things that I needed to change, I could have argued with him, but I said, no, I had the guts to ask him, and I had the guts to shut up and listen and do what he said. And here's the challenge. Dave Duncan is one of the most precious people I've ever met in my life. He reminds me of a lot of these diamonds back here, just the spirit, the heart. Very successful businessman, but very humble. I loved him dearly, but he would never tell me what I needed to do because he's more like a father figure to me than he was a coach and a mentor. So I went up to Brad and asked him, and he started telling me what I needed to change. And I listened to Greg a lot because I'm not even close to being as smart as Greg, but I had that more analytical mind, that IQ mind. Shelley has the EQ mind. That's why we have the business we have, because analytical people have a very hard time building this business because they overthink anything. People that have high EQs think from the heart. And when people see your heart, they'll follow you anywhere. They could care less how smart you are. And I remember coming up to Brad and he said a few things to me, and I always discounted everything Brad had because Brad was just funny all the time. He's always funny. He's just joking around all the time. I never took him serious. I always took Greg serious and David serious, but never Brad. When I shared this with Shelley, she goes, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to do exactly what Brad said. Because I always discounted everything before. I went, oh, that's just Brad. And I thought, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to follow that man to the T. As long as he never asked me to break man's laws or God's laws, I'm going to do everything he said. We went in a diamond qualification. We didn't change one thing about our work habit. We didn't change one thing about anything with customers. VCS didn't exist back then. We didn't change anything. But here's the one thing I did change. I realized you can't be in authority to come under authority. And I was never 100% under anyone's authority in this business because I thought as a corporate with degrees that I knew more than they did. And I discounted what they shared with me because okay, gotcha, right? And when I finally came under total and complete submission, our business changed. And we have never, ever, ever been more fired up and excited than we are now. We're more excited today than we were when we got in this business 38 years ago because we realize today how many more people in America need this business more than ever before, let alone around the world. We realize today how messed up our systems are in this country. If you're an educator here, don't take this wrong. But when I went to college, we taught you how to critically think. Today, they teach you what to think. People don't know how to think anymore. You young folks in here, please don't take this wrong. I love you. You're the future of our country. But you have put so much credence into what you read on the web that you believe the web before you believe somebody like these leaders in here by their example when they tell you what to do. And I think that's going to be the demise of this country if we don't turn that around. I really believe that in my heart. So I want you to know, Atlanta, from the bottom of our heart, we love you so much, it's unbelievable. And I thought about when Twinkle told me her name online, and I thought about her, and I finally met her in person. I saw what a blessing she is. Just a sweetheart. You can just tell she got this spirit. And I'm kind of a corny guy. I'm half Brad anyhow, I finally realized, right? And I thought about that nursery rhyme. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. What you say is what you are. Up above the world goes high, like a what? Like a diamond. Like a diamond. I've had the pleasure to meet all of your brothers. The youngest one being 10 years younger than the oldest one. I met the funny one who's Brad's cousin from another mother. I met his beautiful bride who's Julie Duncan to the T. I met his brother and his sister-in-law who are kicking booty in this business and they're growing like crazy. And I would just tell you as a friend, even though this is the first time I've ever met you, please don't ever let anything come between your brother's relationship. There's nothing so big that you can't resolve. And if you keep humble, you don't let any personality conflicts become between you, I believe you could be the next Duncan family in this organization and be some of the biggest. In the good book, it says, it has been said. We're going to create a dynasty like nobody's business. Love you guys. I'm going to close and leave with two parting thoughts, okay? First thing I want to tell you is this. Your dreams, for all of you, whether you know this or not, have an expiration date. I'm probably the oldest person in the room. Pretty close to it, okay? Your dreams have an expiration date. Time eventually runs out. It's not at your death. It's when the dream dies within you and you no longer think it's attainable. You lose hope. I'm a God-fearing person. And in the book I read, it says, man without hope shall perish. Because a heart without hope grows weary, it grows sick. And it's not when you die, it's when you give up hope that what you got in this business for and what you're fighting for will come to pass. Protect your dream and don't let anybody steal it, because there's more dream stealers than there are dream builders. And never forget that, okay? And finally, I'll leave you with this last parting thought. Remember that the resolution is made worthless by the failure to take action. God bless, Spartans. We love you. Thanks for having us. Go Diamond.
For the calendar year 2024, the average income from Amway for all